Hello dear students. So today we are going to discuss certain important PYQs which have been taken for you, and I hope you find this session interesting and helpful. So let's get started with the first question. This is the recent question which has come, which was in the form of an image base, right? And the question says, which of this cell which is marked as X is in the given image? Options were Purkinje cell, basket cells, granule cells and Golgi cells. So the question is not very difficult. If you just look into this histological picture which is being given to you, you can see that this is one of the largest cell. Also an example of a multipolar neuron. So this was cerebellar circuit or the molecular layer of the cerebellum, and the correct answer being the Purkinje cell. Right? Now, this is what is the cerebellar circuit looks like, having three important layers, that is granular layer, Purkinje cell layer and a molecular layer. Right? As you can see, one of the biggest cell is the Purkinje cells. Right? The other cells which are there in the cerebellar circuit are basket cells, stellate cells, Golgi cells and granule cells. Right? Out of these cells, you must know it is only the granule cell which is excitatory and its neurotransmitter. Because it is excitatory, the neurotransmitter will be glutamate. Now we can see that there are two types of fibers which are coming. These are the climbing fibers and the mossy fibers, which are nothing but the inputs which are coming to the cerebellum. The climbing fibers and the mossy fibers, right? Both of these climbing fibers and mossy fibers, they are giving their direct inputs to the deep cerebellar nuclei. What are the deep cerebellar nuclei? Just recollect them. The globose, emboliform, fastigial, dentate. So those which are present in the white matter, right? They are the deep cerebellar nuclei which are receiving direct inputs from the climbing fibers and the mossy fibers, right? Now, the climbing fibers have got a one-to-one cell-to-cell connection with the Purkinje cell. That means a very strong excitatory input to the Purkinje cell. Whereas mossy fibers, many mossy fibers indulge into one Purkinje cell, or one Purkinje cell is receiving inputs from many mossy fibers. That means a weak excitatory input from the mossy fibers to the Purkinje cells. Climbing fibers, mossy fibers, they're going to the deep cerebellar nuclei and they're going to the Purkinje cell, right? Now granule cells के जो axons होते हैं, you can see the axons of the granule cell which are forming a T-shaped structure are called as parallel fibers. So what are parallel fibers? They are nothing but they are the axons of the granule cells, right? Granule cell is excitatory to the Purkinje cell, to the Golgi cell and also to the stellate cells. Okay, as I told you, it is an excitatory output, so it is going to be excitatory. But the Golgi cells, the basket cells, they are inhibitory to the Purkinje cell, right? So what we can see, cell A, that is granule cell, is excitatory to basket cells and to Golgi cells. But these cells in turn inhibit the Purkinje cell. So A is stimulating B, but B is inhibiting C. This is a very, very typical example of a feed forward inhibition. A very typical example of a feed forward inhibition which is found in cerebellum. You've got different type of synaptic inhibitions. Feed forward inhibition is with cerebellum. And finally, you must remember that the output will be given only from the Purkinje cell. Okay? Out of these different cells, the final output which is going to go is going to be from the Purkinje cell to the deep cerebellar nuclei, which is always inhibitory. So the cerebellar circuit is very important. It is very complex and it is responsible for the most important function that is carried out by cerebellum, that is smoothing and coordination of movements. So whenever there is any correction to be brought about in the ongoing movement, climbing fibers will bring about a long-term depression of the mossy fibers so that they are able to correct the ongoing movement, if there's any mistake in what is planned and what is executed, right? So what is planned and what is executed, another very important function of spinocerebellum. But for this question, the answer was Purkinje cell, biggest cell in the neuronal circuit of the cerebellum, only cell giving the output, which is always inhibitory and going to the deep cerebellar nuclei, right? I hope I was clear with this question. Thank you.